Hello, everybody. This is your Weatherman here with another episode of The Ants Underground Kingdom. And in today's episode, we're going to walk you through, or I'm going to walk you through, how to best get through the Underground Maze game. It's a pretty recent game, mini game added to The Ants, Underground Kingdom game itself. And your general goal is to get as deep into this underground maze as you possibly can. And my record, you can see it at one point, I made it down to level 28, which would be great to repeat. The current record, or I guess the current deepest level on the server is level 21. So I at least want to get deeper than that. But I'm also playing this event pretty early on, so it's likely that more than half of the server hasn't played yet, so that 21 probably won't hold. So I'm going to shoot for better than that. But that's what you always do, right? Is shoot for the best. So the general idea here is you're fighting just with special ants. So you're going to be encountered with insects. You tap on the insect. It's going to show you an ant type. In this case, it's guardian. And that means that insect is vulnerable to guardians. So if you use guardian special ants, it's going to, make your insects more likely to inflict damage and take less damage, or your ants to inflict more damage and take less damage. As you hit these shells, they provide buffs that will stack throughout your whole run. So every time you select a buff, it's going to add on to the previous buffs that you have selected. So it's a good idea to keep track of your buffs so that you are stacking whatever you've built on. You don't just want to keep selecting a variety of buffs. Ideally, you want to focus on, maybe 5-6 buffs and just keep building on them. And I would say focus on a lower number of buffs, but sometimes you don't get the option you want to stack. There are lots of different buff types, and you only get 3 options per shell. And as far as I can tell, it's very random. You'll also see it at the very top, it has levels. So one of them was a level 2 that would give you basically the impact of 2 buffs all at the same time. But since I didn't start off with that buff, I went ahead and just stacked with a buff that I've already got. And if you were paying close attention, you saw that I did select an offensive buff, but I'm primarily going to focus on defensive buffs because my special ants, the ones that I've leveled up and starred and put the most resources into, are more offensive in nature. So I'm trying to use buffs that will make up for the deficiencies in my special ants, how I've built them and evolved them. Again, you click on each level. You want to click on an insect, look at its vulnerability, retool your special ant lineup to target that vulnerability. And of course, you always want to put in your strongest units possible. Because that is going to, you can see it has a recommended power of 1.8 million. Well, if you can get your troop power, your special ant power, you can see mine up top there is 4.9 million. You're much less likely to take damage and more likely to just, breeze through that ant without your special ants taking any damage. And here again, I run into another buff, no defensive options, so I'm just going to stack with one of the offensive options that I've already taken. So you don't always get what you want, every time you hit a shell, but it is, and there you go. So you just saw some damage there. And so when you look at your special ants, above them, there are hearts. There's 3 hearts, and that represents the hit points for each special ant. So in that last battle with the boss, I lost a hit point for my Slim Arched, the leading ant, and then my back row ant. And again, it becomes less likely to lose hit points if you target the vulnerabilities of the insects that you're attacking. So again, run into another shell. These options, none of them are great. I haven't stacked any of them, so I just picked the random defensive one, even though that's not a defensive one that I've been stacking. In this case, the specialization is neutral ants. You're probably used to neutral ants, special ants, for filling in a gap. For instance, if you've got an insect leading a grasshopper insect leading a shooter army, but you've only got 2 really good special ant shooter specialists, you can plug in that 3rd special ant with a universal ant. So it doesn't detract anything away from your unit, but it allows you to, it gives you some advantages, of course, in terms of attack and defense, whatever that special ant does. But it also allows you to maximize the number of troops you have in each row for your marching unit. So that's probably what you're used to. In the maze, neutral ants are different. They are their own category. So you've got guardian, shooter, carrier, and neutral ants. They're all treated differently in this, within the maze here. And finally, at level, 7, I have finally encountered my first shooter vulnerability. Having played through this maze a few times now, it seems like the game hardly ever offers a shooter vulnerability. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because shooters are the most popular type of units to develop because they naturally have the most attack, and a lot of people like to beef up on that attack for their army. So maybe they're just trying to throw in a curveball there to show some value or benefit to those people that have decided to specialize in carriers or guardians. Probably nobody has specialized in neutral ants. There's really no purpose, or there was no purpose until this maze anyways. So if you had neutral ants, you leveled them up, it was probably to plug a hole in one of your in one of your troops, that one of your marching units that needed another special ant, but you didn't have one. You didn't have the proper shooter, guardian, or carrier ant leveled up high enough to fill that hole. So that's how neutral ants have been used in this maze. They are their own separate category. They don't count the same. So a neutral ant does not just fill a gap here. If you put a neutral ant in, it's going to be its own special unit. It's not just going to be generic. So as we move through here, you can see the process itself is pretty simple. Again, primarily what you want to do, if you want to make it as deep as you can into the maze system, you want to take the time to tap the ant, look at its vulnerability, and change up your lineup of special ants every level you go down. And again, those buffs, you want to keep track of what you've been selecting so that you're stacking those buffs. And stacking those buffs, there's another fatality right there. Stacking those buffs becomes really important as you get down to the lower levels, because all of your good special ants are likely to be dead by that point. And so you're relying on those buffs to make up for the lack of your good special ants. So that's why you want to try to hone in on the same buffs as much as possible. And you can always click on that buff list icon sort of on the upper right hand side there if you want to see what progress you've made, or the buffs you've selected so far. And, you see me reviving my ants here. To revive your ants, it does cost money. So that, in that sense, there is a pay to win advantage. It doesn't cost a lot of money to buy the, I think it's called the Revival Honeydew, something like that. At any rate, it looks like some sort of, I don't know, blue sludge or light blue sludge or something. It gives you a chance to revive your special ants. I believe you can only revive a special ant once. I'm not 100% sure on that. But once you've revived a special ant, if it dies a second time, even if you still have more revivals left, I don't believe it will allow you to revive that ant twice. So once an ant dies, if you do revive it, you want to be a little careful. If it's important, you want to be a little careful about using it again. And, in this case, the extra damage was level 2, even though I had some defensive options there. Since it gives you that impact of really getting 2 shells at once, that's why I selected it that time. I had selected the extra damage once before. I think I was forced to. So, while I'm not primarily stacking that, when it gives you the opportunity to, get the equivalent of 2 or even 3 shells worth of buffs in one selection, I tend to go for it unless there's an obvious alternative that I've been stacking. And you'll notice in the maze, you're going to see that, there's different paths you can take. I always recommend taking the path that will lead you to a shell and then to the boss. You don't have to kill every insect in the maze in order to move on. You just have to beat the boss. That allows you to get to the next level. So if you do fight all of the insects, there's some benefit. You'll notice that every time I defeat an insect, there's my current buff list. You can see how I'm stacking defensive lineup, healing, protection. Those are my primary 2, and then a couple of the offensive ones. But primarily looking for that healing and defensive buff, because they do work together. They actually complement each other pretty well. In terms of defense, hopefully keeping your special ants alive longer. And good, no damage that time. That's getting luckier. You can see the power level recommendation going up for every. There's another fatality. At any rate, I chose I'm going to revive that guy. I chose the path to get to the shell. I'm going to avoid the other ant. The rewards it gives you are those golden teardrop icons. I'm sure they have a name. I just can't think of them right now. Those golden teardrops, all they do is allow you to level up an awakening of a special ant. And, I think every battle, maybe you get 10, I don't know, 5 to 10 of those golden teardrops. And usually you get close to 50-ish of those horn looking shells. But I'll tell you what, it's not worth it to fight the extra insects just to get the bonus of those extra horns or extra teardrops. It's much better to shoot to get to the lowest level possible and get those rewards after the event's over. Because you'd think, well, why not stock up on those golden tears? Those golden tears, they level up your awakening. Once you awaken a special ant, once you purchase the proper part to awaken a special ant, that golden teardrop, it levels up your awakening. So you'd think, well, hey, I want more of them. The more the better. Well, the problem is to get one part to awaken one special ant, it costs something like 25,000 of those horns. So by the time you collect enough horns to awaken a special ant, simply by going through the maze enough times, you're going to have plenty of those golden teardrops to level up your awakening. Again, that's my opinion. You don't need to. It's more important to make it down a level than it is to kill every insect on the map. And there was another fatality, and that's another revival. So again, it's a battle of attrition, and if you don't purchase the revivals, that attrition sets in a lot quicker. So you do want to target vulnerabilities as much as possible. Stack those buffs. Be very careful stacking those buffs as much as possible, and do your best to get the most out of your special ants. And I'm still able to revive that one. Here, again, I do get the choice. They were all level 1, unfortunately. But, on this path, I do have the option to go left and get to the boss faster. But I want that buff because I've been able to revive my ants. I haven't gotten to the point where the buffs are useless yet, and I know by the time, if I get to level 20 or below, those buffs are going to be all I've got, because the special ants I'll have to use will not be, they may be leveled up, they may show level 50, but I haven't developed any of their skills. So while they may look strong, they're actually very, very weak. But I know that, and you can check on that if you tap on your special ant. Of course, it'll show you the details, but I know my special ants, and see, there was a fatality, but it had already died once, so it didn't give me the option to revive it. At any rate, in this case, I'm going to that level 2 battle fervor. That's what's recommended. It's an offensive buff, but I'm going to take it, partially because it's level 2 and partially because I've used it before. And again, I lost that special ant. It's gone for good now, so I'm going to put in another special ant. There's another fatality. We'll see if I can revive that one or not. No, that must have been the second time that one died as well. So, once again, even if you do purchase the revival honeydew, you're going to lose ants. There's a limit on how much you can buy anyways. I forget what that limit is. It's 6 or 8 or something. But again, your special ants, they can only die once. You can only revive them one time before they're gone. So you still, even with the revivals there, you still have to be careful. You still have to be strategic about how you're placing your ants. Again, here's my buffs. You can see my defensive lineup and healing protection are leveled up the highest. They do complement each other really nicely. So that's why when I go through this, I usually focus on those two. And right there, you saw my first absolute defeat. I lost all of my special ants. I've only got 2 revivals left. And I'll go ahead and use the last 2 up. Now, you'll notice the insect that I attacked, while he killed all of my special ants, I almost beat him. So he's got almost 0 hit points left. So if you still have special ants left and you run into a defeat, as long as you have special ants left, put them in those slots and attack again. You will certainly get the benefit of the damage you did, even though you lost. Here again, all level 1s. I'm just going to stack up on what I've done, and I'm jumping ahead. several levels here, so you've already seen the same thing, probably more than you want to. But I just wanted to give you a good overview of the strategy, what I'm thinking about, what I'm doing as I go through here. So I've made it to level 25, but in doing so, I've lost all of the special ants where I have leveled up the skills. So at this point, I do have special ants left. Some of them are level 50, but none of them do I have their skills leveled up at all. They're either completely undeveloped or I've unlocked them, but I have not leveled them. So they're either unlocked, but at all level 1, like you saw there, or I just haven't unlocked them, period. So we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here. So I'm just going to put in whatever I've got left. I did have the Cherokee Master left, so that's still a good one. And you'll notice my dead ants are piling up. I've run out of revival honeydew. At this point, you're just putting in whatever you can to keep moving forward. Is it smart to keep going after the buffs? I don't know for sure. But once your buffs get so high, I figure you might as well still try to get them, because I know at this point all of my special ants are so weak that they really, by themselves, they really won't make a difference. And right there, I tried to attack the boss. Everybody died. So I've just got to throw in fodder at this point. I think I have finally exhausted every special ant that had any value whatsoever. And so I'm just putting in special ants to soak up damage. And I did do some damage to the boss, so I made it through. I did enough damage to where he didn't hurt my weak special ants. I got a level 2 defensive buff, so that's real lucky. That's going to help out. And again, that plays well. It complements well with the healing. Regardless, my special ants now are getting so weak that I'm probably going to get a fatality with each attack. There was 2 fatalities. For whatever reason, that fuzzy white ant survived, even though I haven't leveled them up at all. But again, going with the healing buff, it was level 2. Got lucky there once again. And, I'm... You can see I've got a couple that say level 50, but they have no developed skills. And otherwise, I have level 1 special ants left. So I am literally throwing them in for fodder at this point. Right here, I do get a free buff. Unfortunately, they're all level 1, so I just picked a defensive one. It's probably not going to make much of a difference. I still made it through. One more buff. Guess I'll do the healing. I don't have any shooter ants left, so it doesn't matter what its vulnerability is. I attack it. It lost half its hit points, so I'm going to put in my last 2 level 1 special ants, and it made it with 1 hit point. There you go. There's no way I'm going to get past this, but I made it down to level 28, so I tied my PR, and of course that was obviously going to be a defeat. You saw it didn't even really do damage to that ant. I am all out of special ants, so there's nothing else I can do here. No way to purchase anything else. Again, there's a limit. It's all gone. So this is where it ends. I just have to hope that level 28 stands the test of the server, and hope for the best. Of course, right now it looks really good because the next closest ranking is level 21. But again, with more than half the server not having played yet, I really don't know where that 28 will take me. I probably in the top 5 at least, which gives you a bunch of those horns. So hopefully that's good enough. I hope this tutorial helped. If it did, please please subscribe. Please let me know what you'd like to see more of, and I will try to provide the content that you want to see. And this is your weatherman signing off. Thanks for listening.